and a magical forest that seemed to hum with secrets. Here lived a clever young girl named Nomagugu, or Gugu, as the villagers affectionately called her. Gugu was known for her keen eye, her boundless curiosity, and, most famously, her remarkable talent for finding the sweetest, juiciest fruits in all the land. When Gugu returned from the forest, her basket overflowed with oranges that glowed like tiny suns, plums that were as large as a child's fist, and bananas so fragrant that their scent filled the village square. People often asked Gugu where she found these delicious treats, but she only smiled and shook her head, guarding her secret. The forest has its ways, she would say mysteriously, and the villagers respected her wisdom. Everyone knew that a treasure like that should be kept close to the heart. Now, in this same village lived a notorious trickster, a spider named Sibawu. Sibawu was no ordinary spider. He was big and round, with long legs that could reach anywhere they pleased, and a voice so sweet it could melt the thorns off a rose. Sibawu had tricked nearly everyone in the village at least once. He'd charmed his way into the best seats at feasts, convinced animals to give up their meals, and talked his way out of every bit of trouble. The villagers had grown wary of him, and many avoided his smooth-talking ways, but Sibawu didn't mind. He lived for the thrill of a new trick. Lazy and greedy, Sibawu's taste for fine things was only matched by his unwillingness to work for them. One sunny morning, while lounging in the shade, Sibawu noticed Gugu returning from the forest, her basket brimming with plump, glistening fruits. A plan began to form in his mind, and he grinned to himself, his many legs twitching with excitement. Sibawu, he whispered to himself, today you'll dine like a king. He scuttled over to Gugu with his most charming smile, his 8 eyes twinkling. Ah, Gugu, my dear, look at you, so beautiful today, and your hair. It shines like the river at dawn. You're not only beautiful, but you have such an incredible gift. Why, no one can find fruits as delicious as you can, he cooed, his voice as smooth as honey. Gugu, though wary, couldn't help but blush a little. She was kind-hearted and always willing to believe the best in others. Thank you, Sibawu, she replied cautiously. Oh, Gugu, Sibawu continued, his eyes widening with admiration. Imagine if we worked together. I could teach you the ancient spider art of weaving. Just think of yourself, a beautiful, talented girl like you, draped in robes as fine as any queen's, woven by your very own hands. All I ask is that you take me with you just once to find these marvelous fruits. Together, we'd make the perfect team. Now, Gugu was no fool. She knew of Sibawu's tricks and his lazy ways, but she also believed in giving people a chance to prove themselves. So she agreed to show him her secret just this once, but only if he promised to share and be respectful. With a sly grin, Sibawu nodded eagerly. Oh, of course, my dear. I'll be the most grateful spider you've ever met. The next morning, as the mist still clung to the ground, Gugu led Sibawu deep into the forest. They passed the towering baobabs, the fragrant wild jasmine, and the whispering streams until they arrived at her first hidden treasure, a magnificent plum tree with branches heavy with ripe purple fruits that looked ready to burst. Sibawu's eyes grew as wide as saucers, and he barely waited for Gugu to say a word before he lunged at the tree. He plucked plums greedily, stuffing them into his mouth so fast that juice dribbled down his chin, and he didn't stop until he'd eaten every last one. Gugu watched in dismay as her beautiful plums vanished one by one. She tried to keep her spirits up, thinking that perhaps he was just very hungry. Well, she said, maybe the bananas will satisfy him. She led him to her secret banana grove, where the trees grew tall and proud, their golden fruits glowing in the dappled sunlight. But once again, as soon as Sibawu laid eyes on the bananas, he lunged at them, tearing them down with his legs and gobbling them up, barely pausing to breathe. Gugu was growing tired of his selfishness, but she decided to give him one last chance. I know one final place, she said, but this one is very special. It's a honey tree hidden deep in the forest. The honey is sweeter than any you've ever tasted, but you must promise to share. Oh, Gugu, I promise. I swear on every leaf in this forest, Sibawu said, though his eyes gleamed with greed. They arrived at the honey tree, a towering giant with a hollow at its base, filled with rich golden honey. Sibawu, unable to contain himself, squeezed into the hollow, stuffing handfuls of honey into his mouth. He ate and ate, his belly growing rounder and rounder, until finally he was stuck. Realizing his predicament, Sibawu squirmed and struggled, but he was wedged in too tightly. Gugu, my dear friend, help me, he cried, his voice muffled and sticky with honey. Gugu looked at him calmly, a gentle smile playing on her lips. Sibawu, you promised to share, and yet you pushed me aside and took everything for yourself. Now you've eaten so much that you can't even free yourself. But please, Gugu, he wailed. I'm sorry. I'll share. I'll be good. Gugu shook her head. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way, Sibawu. You've taken from everyone, and now you're paying the price. With that, Gugu turned and walked back to the village, leaving Sibawu to struggle and reflect on his greed. He stayed there, stuck and sticky, all night, until finally a passing porcupine helped him out, though not without giving him a sharp prick as a reminder. From that day on, Sibawu was never quite as greedy or lazy as he once was. And as for Gugu, her secret places remained hidden, known only to her and the forest that kept her secrets safe. The villagers marveled at her wisdom and her kindness, and they never forgot the lesson of Sibawu the spider. And so, to this day, when children in the village of Matabeleland hear the story of Gugu and Sibawu, they are reminded to be grateful, to share, and to never take kindness for granted.